So should you buy a house to live in or an investment property as your first purchase? Hi, my name is Tony Law from Your First Four Houses, and I teach people how to build a small property portfolio that generates a great income for them, so they can give up the day job if they wish, because they're now financially free. If this is your first time here, be sure to subscribe to the channel and click that bell notification icon so that you don't miss out on any of the free content that I give you each and every week. So before we dive in, I am not FCA approved, so before taking any action on anything, it's essential you do seek the advice from somebody who is FCA approved, ideally your accountant, ideally an independent tax advisor, and certainly an independent mortgage broker. So now we've got that out of the way, if you're buying your first property, what should it be? A property that you live in, or should it be an investment property? I'm going to share a whole load of advantages for both and ultimately let you decide, but let's start off with buying your own home first of all. Well, the first thing to say is almost certainly it's going to be easier to buy if this is your first property. There are certainly more mortgage products out there. You're probably going to need to put in a lesser deposit, but once again, please speak to an independent mortgage broker and take their advice over this, not mine. You could certainly argue you've got a great sense of security. If you keep up the mortgage payments, no one's going to be kicking you out on the street. You can do the property up as you like it. If you want to use some wacky colours, you could do it because it's your property. It's up to you how you decorate it. Woe betide anybody who decorates any of my rental properties. It's simply not allowed. But if it's yours, you can do what you want. You have no dead money going out each month because the payments that you're making aren't going on rent, are they? I.e., you could argue dead money. They're actually going into, hopefully, a repayment mortgage if this is your own property. You can take advantage of the rent-to-room scheme. Now, if you haven't heard about this, I'll put links in the description box below, but this gives you the ability to earn up to £7,500 at the time of recording, completely tax-free. I don't think many people know about this. You should be taking advantage of this, certainly if it's your first property. If you're going to add substantial value to the property, I talk about this a lot, not a lick of paint, I mean real value. In most scenarios, there's going to be no capital gains tax to pay, but again, you need to speak to an accountant about this. You can also take advantage of the Help to Buy scheme. Now, this is fantastic. For some people, in some circumstances, if you're looking to buy a new property, there's a lot to this. I'll put links in the description box below. You should be aware, though, that it can only be your only property. You can't have a second, for example, investment property whilst taking advantage of the Help to Buy scheme. You would need to pay off the Help to Buy loan bit before going on to buy another property. It's also worth noting here that many lenders won't lend on an investment property at all if that is your first purchase. There are some, but again, speak to an independent mortgage broker about this. So what about the advantages of buying an investment property as your first property? Well, one of the first ones that came to my mind is the fact that you can actually target areas. By that I mean you can target areas where maybe there's a higher potential for growth in terms of capital growth on the property, or maybe a higher potential for rental demand, or maybe you target an area where the properties are simply cheaper, where you can get a better yield. Don't forget, you're not actually going to be living there. You also get more flexibility. You don't have to buy a property that's suitable for you. Maybe you want a house. Well, you actually don't have to buy a house, do you? You could buy a flat or a studio flat or an HMO or whatever you want to do, service accommodation, whatever you want to do. You have more flexibility. You can also take advantage of certain high cash flowing strategies like service accommodation or HMOs, etc., etc. Because again, this is an investment property, it's not where you're going to be living. You could also buy a wreck because you don't have to live there whilst doing it up. Although I should say here that in obviously most scenarios, if it is indeed a wreck, it's probably going to be unmortgageable. Once again, check with your mortgage broker. The tenant is going to pay the mortgage on your investment property. And by that I mean that the rent that they're going to be paying is going to hopefully be substantially more than the mortgage payments that are going out each and every month. So not only are they going to pay the mortgage bit, but they're also going to hopefully give you a healthy capital, healthy cash flow as well. you can work your capital really hard. And so by this I mean you can take that pot of money that you've got, you can put it into an investment property, you can do something to that, either by buying it below market value and then refinancing, or adding substantial value, and in that way build your pot up whilst you go and stay in rented accommodation. And in this way, build that pot up so you've got more capital that you can go off and invest. And lastly, I would argue that it gives you more freedom, because maybe you want to go off and travel, which is a fantastic idea, in which case an investment property may well be the best one for you. But which is better? Well, the truth is, it honestly depends. It depends on your personal goals and also, of course, what investment goals that you want to actually achieve. And so can I suggest that you pick the brains of someone who's kind of got where you want to be. It doesn't have to be a paid coach. For example, it doesn't have to be me, for example. You just need that person to be successful, somebody who's got where you want to be. Please don't take the advice, can I humbly suggest, of some bloke down the pub who hasn't actually got to where you want to be. Seek the advice from somebody who has indeed been successful. My best advice on this point is to kind of visualize where you want to be in 10 years' time. Where do you want to be in 10 years' time? And now consider which would be the best strategy to get you there the quickest. Would it be best for you to buy your own home, or would it be best for you to buy an investment property? I put together a 50-point checklist that will run you through all the steps you need to take before buying that first investment property. Simply click the link here or in the description box below to download your own copy today.